Hi everyone, this is Kyle. Alright, this story is about a week old at this point. Amazon, as many of you know, made a TV show based on Tolkien's world for Lord of the Rings. Now when I say that Amazon made an adaptation for Lord of the Rings, what I'm saying is it had the brand name Lord of the Rings attached to it. Some of the characters in that show had the same names as characters from Middle-earth, but beyond that there was no resemblance to Tolkien's work. This right here is Galadriel in that show. This is not Tolkien's Galadriel, this is Amazon's modernized girl boss version of Galadriel. But anyway, that show premiered on the anniversary of Tolkien's death, a year and a half ago now? It was universally rejected by Lord of the Rings fans, because Lord of the Rings fans, real Lord of the Rings fans, understood that this was just the latest example of a Hollywood studio getting their hands on a beloved story or a beloved world or beloved IP, whatever term you want to use. But it's the latest example of a Hollywood studio getting their hands on somebody else's work and then taking that work that was created by somebody else and then perverting it and turning it into a platform for their own ideology, whether it be their woke ideology, whether it be their girl power ideology, or whether it be their DEI agenda. I mean, there are a bunch of different terms you can use here. But Lord of the Rings fans, they saw exactly what Amazon was doing from the get-go. We knew this was going to be happening years in advance, and as a result, Lord of the Rings fans, they rejected this show, and Amazon predictably argued with fans. They called fans all kinds of names, all the predictable names, but even casual fans who aren't quite as familiar with Lord of the Rings, they apparently did not end up liking the show either. You see right here, only 37% of viewers finished Amazon's Rings of Power. That's just over a third, folks. If you were a fan of Tolkien's work, you hated this show because you recognized that Amazon was taking Tolkien's work, Tolkien's timeless work, and current-daying it. If you were just a casual fan, you watched the show and you hated it because you just looked at it objectively without really any Lord of the Rings knowledge, and you just said this show was not very well written. But Amazon here, they're going to be going full speed ahead. Again, this news is from about a week ago. This is from The Hollywood Reporter. Rings of Power showrunners sign new Amazon deal, begin early work on Season 3. Patrick McKay and J.D. Payne ink new 3-year overall deal with Amazon MGM Studios as they prep a potential third season. I guess they finished their second season, or they finished filming Season 2 for Rings of Power. I wonder how many people are going to watch it because, according to this, only about a third of viewers who watched the first season actually finished it. Alright, I'll read a little bit of this article. I won't read all of it. Lord of the Rings Rings of Power showrunners have struck a new overall deal with Amazon MGM Studios, a potentially bullish sign for the future of the fantasy series. Why is it potentially bullish? Well, because Amazon invested a ton of money in it. Or rather, I should say they're throwing a ton of money down the drain. I mean, the best possible outcome Amazon could have had was not making the show in the first place. In all honesty. Patrick McKay and J.D. Payne have signed a 3-year deal which also launches their own production company, Whatever Productions, I don't care. The duo wrote and executive produced Season 1 of the Emmy-nominated Prime Video series Rings of Power, which debuted in fall of 2022. The show stands as Amazon's most-watched original series and ranked in Nielsen's streaming chart top 4 every week during its initial run. Again, I'm seeing that only about a third of people actually finish the show. The show's second season has wrapped filming and will be released later this year. And whenever it does come out, Lord of the Rings fans are going to have a field day ripping this show to shreds. While third season hasn't officially been ordered and a writer's room has not yet opened, the showrunners have started to break the initial story timeline. And then I guess here they're going to be moving their production to somewhere in the UK. It's not going to make any difference. People still aren't going to like their show. We began this remarkable journey with JD and Patrick more than 5.5 years ago and have never looked back, said Vernon Sanders, head of television, Amazon MGM Studios. We continue to be amazed by the scope and scale of their vision and the enormous global success achieved by Lord of the Rings or Rings of Power in its record-breaking first season. We can't wait for Prime Video customers to experience the epic adventure and high-stakes drama that JD and Patrick are continuing to build throughout Season 2 and beyond. Naturally, the studio is thrilled to extend our overall deal with these brilliant creative minds as they continue to deliver on their passion for great storytelling. Brilliant creative minds, eh? Okay, let's take a look at some of their brilliance.
That twist. Gut.
Workers, taking your trades. C is always right.
Conflicted.
Give me the meat and give it to me raw.
Straight to the southland! Arise, arise, riders of Theoden! Fell leads awake fire and slaughter. Spear shall be shaken, shield be splintered, sword day, red day, ere the sun rises.
Okay, I don't think Lord of the Rings fans are going to agree with you that these people are brilliant creative minds, but if that's what you think, Amazon, well, I guess you do you. But in all seriousness, folks, back before the first season premiered, the showrunners, one of them was quoted as saying, "The driving question behind the production, can we come up with a novel Tolkien never wrote and do it as a mega event series that could only happen now? Can we come up with a novel Tolkien never wrote?" Tolkien is arguably the greatest writer to ever walk this earth. And these people and the people at Amazon, they went into this thinking that they can take the work of maybe the greatest writer that has ever lived, and they can one-up him. They thought that they could take a timeless piece of work and quote-unquote update it for a modern audience. They took a timeless piece of work and they just injected it with the current day sophisticated, or in their minds sophisticated, story trends that we're seeing right now. Whether it be everything needs to be more morally gray. Tolkien's world is not morally gray by any stretch of the imagination. It is very black and white. It's very good and evil. Or taking female characters and just turning them into girl bosses, as they call it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not Tolkien's Galadriel. This is Amazon's current day incorrect version of Galadriel. This right here is not Elendil. Elendil was a warrior. This right here is your stereotypical current day beta male character, because modern writing dictates that we can't have strong male characters anymore. Again, this is not Tolkien's Galadriel. This is current day Galadriel because modern writing dictates that every single woman needs to be a strong woman girl boss queen. That's what Amazon wanted, and the actual source material itself, it's just an inconvenience standing in the way of their current day agendas. And going back to this right here, folks, when you're adapting somebody else's work, and especially when that work is a masterpiece, and then the showrunners ask, can we come up with a novel Tolkien never wrote? Folks, your job when you're adapting somebody else's story is to adapt that somebody else's writing, whoever it is. That somebody's work, as it was originally written, that was what gained that story millions and millions and millions of fans in the first place. And so common sense would tell you to simply follow that source material. If you want to have a successful movie adaptation or TV adaptation, whatever it might be, common sense would tell you that story as it was originally written, that was what gained it a ton of fans. So if we want to have a successful show, we should stick to that source material. But the people working in Hollywood, they don't have common sense. That is just a symptom of being an activist first and an entertainer second. Their goal is not to tell a good, faithful adaptation that fans will love. Their goal is to take somebody else's work and turn it into a platform for their ideology. They'll take somebody else's work, in this case work that Tolkien spent his entire life creating, and they're going to change it, all under the guise of, we're going to update it for modern audiences, or some variation of that phrase. Folks, if you did not create that work, you have no right to change it. Period. End of discussion. Because it is not your story. What Amazon did to Tolkien's work, it is both disgusting and it is unforgivable. And if you ask me, the thing that pisses me off the most, and I'm sure a lot of Lord of the Rings fans will agree, we knew for years that this was coming. I mean, we simply had to look at what Hollywood had done to other IPs out there, and based on that, we could predict exactly what was going to happen to Tolkien's work when Amazon adapted it. And sure enough, basically every prediction we had turned out to be correct. And folks, some of you out there might say, Kyle, why can't you just be happy that we have the Lord of the Rings books? Why can't you just be happy that we got the Peter Jackson adaptations for Lord of the Rings? Who cares what Amazon's doing? There's always going to be the original work we can go back to. Well, if you want my answer, this is why.
The generation that comes after us now, this will be their memory of Tolkien. This will be their memory of the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power.
This new generation, this is going to be their version of Tolkien. If you want to read between the lines on that, Amazon's trying to revise Tolkien's work. You know, imagine if someone had never heard of Lord of the Rings before and then suddenly they watch Rings of Power, and then they think, okay, so this is Tolkien's work. So this right here is who Galadriel is. And then they're going to go about incorrectly thinking that this is what Lord of the Rings is. Let's go back to what Sophie Anambet said.
The generation that comes after us now, this will be their memory of Tolkien. This will be their memory of the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power.
The worst thing about this abomination of a Tolkien adaptation is that you'll have some people out there who've never heard of Tolkien before, who are unfamiliar with Lord of the Rings, and this is going to be their very first experience with Tolkien's work, and they're going to think that this is Tolkien's work when it's not. And frankly, I think this is Amazon's goal. Again, these people in Hollywood, they are not entertainers, they are activists. Their goal is to take everything that they get their hands on and turn it into a platform for their ideology, whether it be their current day ideology, their woke ideology, their feminist ideology, whatever terms you want to use. Rings of Power here is just the latest example of it. I think these people at Amazon, they want to revise Tolkien's work. I think they want to take Tolkien's work and they want to mold it into their own vision. And then you'll have casual fans out there who are not avid Lord of the Rings readers, who will see this show, and they will incorrectly think that this is what Tolkien's work is. And that right there is why I say, no, this is why we can't just be happy that the original books exist, or we can't just be happy that the Peter Jackson movies exist. With the way that Hollywood has been perverting one story after another, if you're a fan, you can't just sit back and be glad that the original works exist. When abominations like this happen, you have to call it out. Amazon here, they took Tolkien's work and they absolutely corrupted it, and they're going to be doubling and tripling down on what they're doing. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, if you consider hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Take care until then.
Give me the meat and give it to me raw.